Before we dive into this incredible story of kindness, secrets, and second chances, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel, Justice Reloaded HD. We share real human stories that touch the soul and remind us of the power of doing good. Now, here's today's story. The rain hadn't let up for hours, drenching every inch of Charleston's tired streets. Water pooled at the corners, reflecting the hazy orange glow of street lamps and the occasional blur of a passing car. Just outside the historic district, tucked between a shuttered laundromat and a pawn shop with flickering neon, sat a narrow diner with a rusted tin roof and checkered tiles faded from decades of footsteps. Its sign, barely lit, buzzed against the storm. But inside, the light was soft, golden. Safe. The kind of place where time slowed down, where the jukebox hummed old jazz tunes from Ella and Billy, and the scent of fried okra and sweet cornbread lingered in the air. Darius pushed open the glass door with his shoulder, a wet hood clinging to the back of his neck. He shook off the rain like a dog, the bell above the entrance jingling in protest. A few familiar faces nodded at him from their booths. Miss Lillian, always sipping chamomile at that same corner seat. Mr. Otis, who never let go of his crossword even during thunderstorms. Darius gave them a tired smile and slid onto his usual stool at the counter, his boots leaving wet footprints behind. He was beat. A full day at the garage meant hours under cars, inhaling grease and grit, wrestling with rusted bolts and tight budgets. His hands were calloused and blackened beneath the fingernails, sleeves rolled halfway up muscular arms that bore the weight of hard work and too many unpaid bills. But here, with a chipped mug of coffee warming his palms, he could breathe. Then the door opened again. This time, it wasn't someone from the neighborhood. A woman stumbled in, her heels clicking unevenly on the tile floor. She was soaked, rain dripping from her coat, hair clinging to her cheeks, mascara smudged beneath wide, anxious eyes. Her trench coat looked expensive, cinched at the waist with leather gloves tucked into the pocket. The boots were sleek, shiny, not built for storm puddles and uneven sidewalks. She looked lost. Like someone who'd taken a wrong turn into a life she didn't quite belong in. She hesitated for a moment before sliding into the booth by the window, the furthest from everyone else. The waitress, Marlene, approached her gently, offering a menu and a warm smile, no questions asked. Darius turned back to his coffee, but his ears caught snippets of conversation. The woman ordered quietly, something small, maybe soup and toast, and Marlene disappeared behind the counter. A few minutes later, the soft clink of utensils paused. The woman's voice, low and embarrassed, trembled. I think I forgot my wallet," she said, fumbling through her drenched handbag. Her cheeks flushed red as she kept searching, hands visibly shaking. "I'm so sorry. I didn't realize." Marlene tried to reassure her, but the woman was mortified, eyes darting as if looking for an escape. Darius exhaled and reached into the back pocket of his jeans, pulling out a crumpled 20 and waving Marlene over. "I got it," he said simply. "You sure?" Marlene whispered, glancing between them. "Yeah. It's just a meal." The woman looked up, startled. "No, please. You don't have to." Darius shook his head. "You look like you needed a warm meal more than I needed those $20. She stared at him for a long second, then offered a faint, disbelieving smile, the kind that flickered like a candle in the dark. And then she said softly, "Thank you." Before she left the diner that rainy night, the woman had reached for a paper napkin from the dispenser and scribbled something on it. Her hands were still damp, her handwriting a little shaky, but when she placed it on the counter in front of Darius, her eyes met his with quiet sincerity. "My name's Monica," she said softly. "I'd like to thank you properly, if you'll let me." Darius looked down at the napkin. A name. A phone number. Just 10 digits that could lead anywhere, or nowhere. He nodded once, not sure what to say. Monica offered a hesitant smile before disappearing into the storm, her heels clicking against the wet pavement, swallowed by the rain and Charleston night. He kept the napkin. Folded it once, tucked it into the front pocket of his jacket, and didn't think much of it after that. Or at least, he tried not to. For a few days, Darius went about life like normal. Work. Sleep. Same greasy hands, same busted cars, same city that never quite dried out. He didn't cull. Something about it felt fragile. Like the moment had been real, but maybe too brief to chase down. And then 5 days later, fate stepped in, or maybe the universe just had a strange sense of humor. It was late afternoon. The rain had finally cleared, and Darius found himself wandering into a little used bookstore tucked between a record shop and a soul food cafe on Spring Street. He liked it there. The place always smelled like old paper and black coffee. The aisles were tight, the shelves uneven, but the owners never rushed anyone. He liked how quiet it was. He was thumbing through a worn copy of Invisible Man when a familiar voice drifted over his shoulder. "I was hoping you'd call." He turned, and there she was. Monica. No rain this time. Her hair was dry, loosely pulled back, and she wore a soft gray sweater instead of that tailored trench coat. Still elegant, still out of place in a store like this, but more human somehow. She was holding a book on gardening and smiling like they were old friends. Darius blinked. "Didn't expect to see you again." "I come here when I need to think," Monica said, glancing around. "Didn't peg you for a reader." He gave a one-shoulder shrug. "Only the ones that bite back." She laughed, not the kind you give to be polite, but the kind that's honest and surprised. "That's a good answer," she said. They talked. Right there in the aisle between poetry and philosophy. About books. About music. About why Charleston felt so different after a rain. Monica didn't explain much about herself. She said she was taking a break from work, and left it at that. Said she was trying to find balance, trying to remember who she was without the chaos. Darius understood more than he let on. Eventually, Monica asked if he'd join her for a coffee next door. He hesitated, just a beat, then said yes. And for the first time in a long while, Darius found himself wanting to know someone, not out of curiosity, but out of a quiet, unspoken pull he couldn't explain. Over the next few weeks, something quiet but undeniable began to unfold between Darius and Monica. It wasn't rushed. No grand gestures. No late-night confessions. Just moments. The kind that linger longer than they should. The kind that sneak up on you when you're not looking for them. It started with a text from Monica. Then another. Then a Saturday afternoon spent wandering through the farmer's market near Marion Square. Monica wore jeans and a plain white t-shirt. Nothing designer, nothing flashy. Her hair was tied back, and she clutched a canvas tote bag like she'd done this 100 times before. But Darius could see it in her eyes. She hadn't. Not like this. They moved slowly through the booths, tasting peach preserves from an old woman named Miss Annie, listening to a street saxophonist riffing through Coltrane like the city was his stage. Monica laughed when a little girl offered her a flower made from pipe cleaners. She bent down, accepted it with grace, and stuck it behind her ear. Darius watched her, quietly amazed at how natural she made it look, like she'd always belonged here. Later that evening, he took her to a free jazz concert at Hampton Park. They sat on a blanket on the grass, surrounded by families with folding chairs and coolers, the soft buzz of summer air and music weaving through the trees. Darius brought 2 sandwiches wrapped in foil and a couple of grape sodas. Monica didn't complain. In fact, she said it was one of the best nights she'd had in years. "I don't remember the last time I sat on grass and didn't feel like I had to be somewhere else," she said, her voice soft as the sax carried in the distance. "You don't always have to be somewhere else," Darius replied, not looking at her. "Sometimes right here is good enough." She didn't say anything, but she leaned a little closer, resting her hand on his for just a second. Long enough for him to feel it. Long enough for her to want more. A week later, he introduced her to his mother. It wasn't formal. Just a stop by after Sunday service. His mom, Miss Geraldine, lived in a modest house with a front porch full of wind chimes and fading potted plants. She wore a blue housecoat and offered Monica lemonade before asking any questions. Monica helped slice sweet potatoes in the kitchen. They laughed. They talked about gospel music and how no one fried chicken like Miss Geraldine. When they left, Darius's mother gave him that look, the one that spoke without words. "She's kind," she said. "You hold on to that." And Darius wanted to. He wanted to hold on to Monica. He didn't know where it was going, but something about her felt solid. Like she saw him, not just the grease on his hands or the dirt under his nails, but the dream that kept him awake at night. One night, as they sat parked outside her apartment, he opened up. "I've been saving," he told her. "Working extra shifts, fixing up an old lot I bought on Meeting Street. Someday, I want to open my own shop. A real garage. Not just for cars, but for young folks to learn the trade. A place that gives back." Monica smiled. "That's beautiful, Darius." He glanced at her. "You ever dream about something different?" She hesitated. "Just a beat." "All the time," she said. But she didn't tell him what her world really looked like. The private jets. The boardrooms. The magazine features that called her a prodigy. Monica Brooks, CEO of Brookline Urban Holdings, a real estate empire stretching from Atlanta to Boston. One of the youngest black women ever to be featured in Forbes' Top 30 Under 30 list, and again in Power Women to Watch. But none of that mattered when she was with Darius. In his world, she could breathe. She could laugh without filtering herself, listen without having to fix something, be without needing to prove anything. So she kept the secret a little longer. Not out of shame, but out of fear. Fear that if he knew, everything good and simple between them would vanish, just like mist on a Charleston morning. It was a Thursday afternoon, the kind where the sky couldn't decide between sunlight or drizzle. Darius had finished work early and on a whim, decided to surprise Monica with her favorite drink, a caramel oat milk latte from a tiny cafe she'd once mentioned loving. He balanced the to-go cup in one hand and used the other to text her, but the message went unanswered. Figuring she might be home, he made his way to her apartment building. The doorman recognized him by now and nodded politely, letting him up without question. When he reached her door, he knocked lightly, waited, then noticed it was slightly ajar. He hesitated, then called out softly, "Monica." No answer. Pushing the door open a little more, he stepped inside, and froze. The space was nothing like he expected. It was massive. The ceiling stretched high above, modern chandeliers dripping like crystal waterfalls. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a full view of the Charleston harbor, where sailboats bobbed like toys. The floors were polished marble, and on the walls hung original artwork, pieces he recognized from museums, not magazines. But what stopped him cold was the glossy coffee table, where a magazine lay neatly atop a stack of architecture books. Forbes. On the cover, her face stared back at him, proud and confident beneath the headline. Monica L. Brooks, the Black Billionaire Redefining Downtown America. Darius couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. The silence of the penthouse pressed against his chest like a weight. Footsteps approached from down the hall. Monica appeared barefoot, holding a tablet in one hand and a Bluetooth earpiece in the other. She was mid-sentence, clearly just finishing a Zoom meeting. Her eyes widened when she saw him standing there, latte still in hand, face pale. "Darius," she started, her voice catching. He held up the magazine. "This you." She set the tablet down slowly. "I can explain." His jaw clenched. "You're Monica Brooks. The Monica Brooks. You've been on Forbes, CNN, TED Talks, and you said you were taking a break from work." "I was," she said quickly. "I am. I just..." "You lied." "No. I didn't tell you everything, but I didn't lie to you. I was afraid." "Afraid of what?" His voice was rising now. That I'd treat you different? That I'd want your money? She stepped closer, her tone desperate. Darius, you don't understand. People see the title, the money, and they stop seeing me. You didn't. That night at the diner, you didn't know who I was. You just helped me. You looked at me like I was a person, not a brand. And yet you didn't trust me enough to tell me who you really were. His voice was tight, his hands shaking slightly. What else don't I know, Monica? Was any of it real? It was all real, she whispered, eyes glassy. Everything with you was the only real thing I've had in years. But he couldn't hear it. Not through the rushing in his ears. Not through the echo of disappointment cracking in his chest. He shook his head slowly. I thought I knew you. And then he turned. Walked out without another word. The door clicked shut behind him like a final note, leaving Monica alone in the silence of her million-dollar world, eyes full of tears, hands suddenly too empty. The days that followed passed slowly, like honey sliding down the side of a glass. Darius didn't go to the diner. He didn't stop by the bookstore. He didn't listen to jazz. The things that once brought him peace now only reminded him of her, of laughter shared under market lights, of her hand brushing against his on a park bench, of the quiet way she made everything feel softer. He told himself he was done, that it didn't matter who she really was. But the truth hung in the air like humidity, thick, clinging and inescapable. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, he found a letter in his mailbox. Not a text. Not an email. A real letter. Handwritten. Postmarked from downtown Charleston. The envelope was cream-colored, the kind people used for wedding invitations or thank-you notes. His name, Darius James, written in familiar cursive across the front. No return address. He carried it inside like it was something sacred. Sat down at the kitchen table, tore it open carefully, and began to read. Darius. I didn't know how else to reach you. I figured a text wouldn't be enough, and maybe you wouldn't answer anyway. But I needed to say this, even if you never read it. The truth is, I was afraid. Afraid because all my life, people have only seen my name, my net worth, my company. They call me powerful, ambitious, ruthless. And maybe I am those things when I have to be. But what they never see, what no one ever cared to ask, is how lonely it gets. I've had men date me just to get close to my boardroom. I've had friends disappear when I didn't invest in their projects. I've walked into rooms and felt invisible because the weight of my title entered before I did. And then I met you. That night at the diner, you didn't know who I was. You didn't care. You didn't ask for anything. You just looked at me, soaked, embarrassed, and tired, and you saw a person. You helped me without hesitation. That meant more to me than I can ever explain. You made me feel human again, Darius. I'm sorry I didn't trust you with the whole truth. But my feelings were always real. I never pretended with you. I laughed because I wanted to. I listened because I needed to. And when I looked at you, I didn't see a mechanic with grease under his nails. I saw a man with vision, heart, and kindness that this world doesn't get enough of. If I've lost you, I'll live with that. But I hope, even if just one part of you still believes in what we had, that you'll know I never meant to hurt you. Monica. Darius sat in silence after finishing the letter. His eyes lingered on the last line, reading it again and again until it blurred. He read the letter 3 times that night. Then again the next morning. Something in his chest loosened. Not all at once, but just enough. He still felt betrayed. But more than that, he felt her words, raw and aching, written not by a CEO, but by a woman stripped of armor, asking for grace. And he realized that maybe, just maybe, they were both scared for the same reason. They'd finally found something real, and didn't know how to hold on to it. The night of the gala came with clear skies and a gentle breeze, a rare grace after weeks of rain. The city shimmered as lights bounced off the windows of tall buildings, and a sea of black-tie guests flowed through the grand entrance of Charleston's historic Middleton Hall. Inside, chandeliers sparkled like constellations, and violins played softly under the murmur of polite conversation and clinking glasses. Monica stood near the edge of the room, poised in a deep green gown that hugged her silhouette with effortless grace. But her smile, the one she wore for cameras and donors, didn't reach her eyes. This wasn't just another fundraiser. This one mattered. The gala supported a housing initiative she'd started, a program meant to help working-class families find affordable homes in neighborhoods where they were being priced out. It was her way of giving back to the city that had shaped her and, in some unexpected way, brought her to Darius. She scanned the crowd, board members, city councilmen, wealthy investors. But the one face she wanted to see wasn't there. Until it was. He walked in quietly, standing taller than usual, his shoulders squared but his eyes uncertain. Darius wore a black suit that didn't quite fit his broad frame, borrowed from his old boss at the garage, sleeves a little short, collar a bit snug, but it didn't matter. He wore it like dignity. Like courage. Monica's breath caught in her throat. Darius took a few steps forward, each one steady, deliberate, until he stood just a few feet from her. Around them the gala carried on, laughter, speeches, waiters weaving through with trays of champagne, but in that moment, it was just the two of them. She opened her mouth to speak, but he beat her to it. "I didn't fall in love with a billionaire," he said, voice low but sure. "I fell in love with the woman who smiled at me on a rainy night." Monica's lips parted, her eyes filling before she could blink the tears away. "I was angry," Darius continued. "Felt like I'd been played. But then I realized, maybe I didn't give you the chance to explain. Maybe I let my pride talk louder than my heart." She reached out, her hand brushing his. "I was scared," she whispered. "Scared that if you knew who I was, it would ruin everything that felt real." He nodded slowly. "It didn't ruin it. It just made me realize how much it meant." The music swelled softly behind them as the violinist shifted to a warm, familiar tune. Monica stepped closer, unable to stop the tears now. "You mean that?" she asked. "I do," he said. And then she wrapped her arms around him, not like a woman clinging to hope, but like someone coming home. The room around them paused, just for a moment, as a few people nearby noticed, smiles spreading. A few clapped quietly. Not because of the gala, or the speech, or the money being raised, but because they knew a different kind of miracle had just happened in front of them. The kind not written in checks, but in second chances. The sun beat gently on Meeting Street, casting long shadows across the sidewalk where a fresh coat of paint gleamed under the morning light. A new sign swung gently in the breeze above the open garage doors, Darius Auto and Custom Repairs. It wasn't flashy. No chrome. No neon. Just clean block letters in black and white, honest and proud, like the man behind them. It had taken months. Long nights. Early mornings. Scraping together funds. Negotiating with stubborn inspectors. Fixing what others might have torn down. But Darius had done it. And he hadn't done it alone. Though Monica had offered money, connections, even architects, he insisted on building it himself, or at least leading the work. She respected that. She helped in ways he wouldn't see right away, recommending vendors quietly, connecting him with a local nonprofit that offered equipment grants, smoothing city paperwork without leaving her name on anything. She didn't want the credit. She wanted his dream to be fully his. And now, on this warm afternoon, the grand opening had drawn a small but joyful crowd. Family. Friends. Neighbors from the block. Some had known Darius since he was a teenager with oil-stained jeans and a wrench always in his back pocket. Others had just come out of curiosity, drawn by the smell of barbecue, the soul music playing from a speaker on the roof, and the unmistakable feeling that something good was happening here. Miss Geraldine sat front row on a folding chair, fanning herself with a church program and smiling so hard her cheeks ached. The mayor's office had sent a representative, but they stood quietly near the back, letting the community take the spotlight. Darius stepped up to a small podium, nothing fancy, just an old workbench cleaned up for the occasion. He cleared his throat, glanced down at the note card he'd scribbled on but didn't use it. "I know most of y'all already know me," he began, voice a little rough but steady. "You know where I've come from. You've seen me in your driveways and under your hoods. This shop, this place, it ain't just a business to me. It's a dream I almost gave up on." He paused, eyes scanning the faces before him. Then they found Monica. "This place stands," he said, "because someone believed in me, when I didn't even believe in myself." The crowd clapped, some with wet eyes, others just nodding. Monica stood off to the side, her dress catching the late afternoon light, and smiled without saying a word. After the ribbon was cut, a thin strip of gold cloth Miss Geraldine had found in her sewing box, Darius gave small tours of the garage. Tools hung neatly on the walls, the scent of new paint still lingering. One stall was already booked for a classic Mustang rebuild, another marked for community workshops he planned to start on Saturdays, teaching teens how to work with their hands. As the sun dipped low, casting amber light across the street, Darius stepped outside to breathe it all in. Monica joined him quietly, sliding her fingers between his. "They showed up for you," she said. "They showed up for us," he corrected, his thumb brushing hers. "They just didn't know it." They stood together in silence, watching the people they loved laugh and linger in the glow of something real. No flash, no headlines. Just connection, community, trust. And in that moment, beneath the fading gold of a Charleston sky, they both understood, true happiness didn't come from titles or bank accounts. It came from showing up. From starting again. From believing, even when it was hard. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel, Justice Reloaded HD. We bring you powerful human stories that remind us, no matter how different our worlds may be, kindness, truth, and love can always find a way.